Well, good morning. Nothing like a mandatory training on a Friday morning to get everything started right for your weekend. So I appreciate y'all coming. I understand that you sort of have to be here. It's kind of like when I see patients in my therapy practice who are told, I work with a lot of police officers in my therapy practice, and some of them are told like they have to come see me because they've done something or gotten in some trouble or everything. And it's like it's hard for me sometimes to engage them, but I'm gonna I try, and I will try with you. I'm gonna try to make this interesting to you. I also want to make it kind of interactive, so I'm not going to stand here and lecture to you for an hour. I want us to have kind of a conversation about sexual harassment in the workplace. Here's a little bit about me. I've been a therapist at Access Wellness Group or with that group of people since the late 90s. As Sherry mentioned, we would love to see you in our practice. You know, it's free, it's confidential. If you're having family problems, marriage problems, personal problems, whatever, we'd love to help you, talk with you at our clinic, which is over off of Regency Road. I'm also a professor at UK in the College of Social Work and teach there. This is my family. I play music. I understand maybe there's a musician, somebody around here. This dude over here, famous musician. So I talk with everybody I see about self-care and what do you do outside of here to take care of yourself? So music is one of the things that I do that I really like. Started running about 4 years ago, and I'm at about a 12-minute mile now. That's really slow. You can go ahead and laugh about that. It's okay. That's super. It's really almost a fast walk, but I'm trying. So why are you mandated to come here and sit with me for an hour? Does anybody know why? Stay out of trouble. That's a good thing. Sherry doesn't like trouble, or your bosses or whoever. I don't want you to be in trouble either. Well, I think one of the reasons is because of these guys, and I don't know if you can identify all of them. I can identify a few of them. Let's see, I see Louis C.K., who's a comedian. I see, who else do we see? Weinstein. He started all of this off, right? Harvey Weinstein. I see President George H.W. Bush up there. What did he do? He was kind of grabby, wasn't he, when he was taking pictures with some women. I see, who else do we see up there? Kevin Spacey? Did y'all ever watch House of Cards? What a great Netflix show, but he turned out to do a lot of things earlier in his life and really later in his life that caused some problems for him and for some other people. So these are, sexual harassment is kind of this big thing in the media now, but really it also costs lots and lots of money. I was reading about a case in California recently where a woman was paid $132 million because of a sexual harassment case in her workplace. $132 million. And I don't know what your budget here is at Clark, but 132 million would probably put a dent in your budget, right? Costs a lot of money to settle sexual harassment cases in the workplace. So here's what I want to talk with you about today. We're going to come up with a definition of sexual harassment so that you can avoid it. I mean, I want you to stay out of trouble too. And also I want to talk about this idea of just being respectful. I mean, I have 2 teenage sons, and they know the rules. We have rules at our house, and they follow them most of the time. They're pretty good boys, but I want them to do more than just be afraid of me and my wife, right? That we're going to come down on them. I really want to create a family that is respectful of each other. I've got a 15-year-old son now, and he walks around and just belches like all the time. Just walks through the house. But does anybody else have teenagers? I'd love to talk with you sometime about how to deal with those crazy kids, but and so I'm sort of talking with him about, we don't do that, and anyway, I need some therapy myself to deal with that child, but we're going to come up with a definition. We're going to talk about the different types of sexual harassment. I want to really be clear about identifying sexual harassment. What does it look like and what is it not? I mean, I think it's really important to talk about what it's not as well. And then finally, we're going to wind up with if it's happening to you, how do you file a complaint here at Clark? Does that sound okay? All right. So you should know about Title VII, which is a federal law, and it prohibits many forms of discrimination, including sex discrimination, sexual harassment. The EEOC, Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, they're the ones that enforce Title VII, okay? So they have to be active in workplaces, they have to know what's going on. If sexual harassment claims are done, then they have to be involved in that. They have to know about it. So that's the federal arm that enforces that. So I want to ask you, what do you think sexual harassment is? You didn't know you was going to have to talk this morning, did you? Everybody averts their eyes. Unwanted advancements, okay. Do you have an example? So sexual.
It could be touching. It could be
Okay.
verbal.
Go out. Go out on a date with me. Please go out on a date with me. Will you go out on a date with me? Yeah. What else is it? That's right. What else is sexual harassment?
Sexual comments.
Sexual comments. Yeah. Just looking at somebody, tell them
How good you look.
how good you look. Yeah. Yep. What else?
The comments making a third party uncomfortable.
Okay. Making comments that make someone else uncomfortable of a sexual nature. Yep. Others? We have mostly guys in here, don't we? But I really would love for the women who are in here to speak up, because we're going to be talking a lot about, most sexual harassment is directed toward women. What else? What else constitutes sexual harassment?
Promise or denial of advancement in the company.
That's a big one. We're going to talk about that. That's called a quid pro quo. So if you go out with me, if you sleep with me, whatever, I'm going to advance you in this company. Yeah. You guys are all right on track. So really the definition is it's unwelcome verbal, visual, or physical conduct. And here we're talking about of a sexual nature. And it's severe or pervasive. Okay, and that's an important thing to remember. We're going to talk about that in the context of a workplace situation. And it affects working conditions, and it creates a hostile work environment. Okay, those are all things out of the law, and so we're going to kind of piece together all of those this morning. I believe I have a video here, and before we play that, this is of a woman. I was looking on YouTube last night. This video has been viewed 45 million times on YouTube. This is a woman who walked down the streets of New York. You may have seen this just for a few hours, and I can't remember how many hours, but there were over 100 times that people said something to her, or catcalled or did something to her. So we're gonna watch a little bit of that.
How you doing today?
So she's just walking down the street, right? I mean, she's not, she was not dressed in a provocative way. She wasn't doing anything but just walking down the street. And that video really strikes me. I saw another one that I almost played for you. It was a little long, but this was another woman who did the same thing, but as she was being called out, she would stop and talk to the guy. So one guy said, hey, baby, you want to marry me? And she'd stop and she'd go over to him and say, yeah, I really do. I do want to marry you. And he was like, and he just kind of sat back down, and she responded to everyone. It was absolutely hilarious. She just kind of called guys out every time they would say something to her, and she would sort of back down. But you see that this happens, all the time, right? And again, I think I've talked with a number of women who this is, sadly, is just kind of part of their lives, as a woman that they've been subjected to. So again, I want you to think about if that happens to you, just how that builds up, right? And how that makes you vulnerable and just discouraged about just kind of living your life. So let's talk about conduct. So conduct is not harassment if it's welcome. So this is really important that if this is happening to you, it's important to communicate that either verbally or in writing to the person that's doing the harassment. So if it makes you uncomfortable and you want it to stop, it's important to communicate that. The law also talks about conduct of a sexual nature. So these are things like comments somebody mentioned about your clothes, your body, sexual-based jokes. I mean, this is hard in some ways because I think humor is really important. I use humor a lot I talk to people all day long about suicide and trauma and stuff like that, and I teach my students about all this really hard stuff that social workers have to deal with. So I love listening to humor, comedians and prank phone calls and things like that. But I think we have to be very careful about using that kind of humor in the workplace that's very sexual. Certainly requesting sexual favors, sexual innuendos, rumors about somebody's sexual life. I had a client that I worked with recently who was having an affair with somebody, and another coworker, videotaped, snuck to their house and videotaped them having sex and then tried to blackmail them, and it was just this big mess, but this person started all these rumors in the workplace about these two people. Threatening people of an email, sending texts to them of a sexual nature. There's also physical kinds of issues that we need to talk about here. Certainly sexual assault. Do I need to even say that that's wrong? Don't do that. Don't sexually assault each other. But impeding or blocking movement, what would that mean?
Stand in front of them, stop them going down the highway.
Yeah, just kind of standing in front of them with your body, kind of blocking them. Inappropriate touching of a person or their clothes, kind of walking up. Well, that's really a pretty dress that you have on. That's a really pretty blouse. Let me touch that, Kissing them, hugging them, patting them, stroking them, just kind of physically touching somebody. Be respectful of other people's bodies, right? And again, I want to say here that I'm kind of a hugger. I just am. My family, I grew up in a family of 8 people, and I just saw them last weekend, and my mom and dad, my brothers and sisters, we love each other. We kiss on each other and hug each other. I think in today's environment, though, in the workplace, you have to be very careful about that because not all people do that, and they don't like that, and it's offensive to them to be touched. And I also want, and especially the men in here, I want you to think about, you may not know everything that's happened to somebody in their life. Do you know what I'm talking about? I work in my therapy practice with a number of people who have been molested as children. They've been raped. They've just their bodies have been violated ever since they were little kids. So what may mean a very simple thing to you, just being friendly, give me a hug or let me just touch you on the back or whatever, that may be very scary to them, and it may bring up a lot of stuff for them. So I just kind of want you to remember that and be respectful about that. We talked about nonverbal, looking up and down somebody's body, derogatory gestures, facial expressions, following a person. I thought that was really weird on that video, didn't you? Some guys just like following this person around, Is that supposed to be like some sort of sexy move or something that I don't know about, just following, somebody with this dead look on your face? I thought that was very strange. Posters, drawings, pictures, screensavers. Anybody have any kind of sketchy screensavers on there? I hope not. Emails, texts, we talked about. You guys remember this dude? Popeye the Sailor Man? Used to love that show. Is that still on? Probably not. But his famous saying was, "I am what I am." You're not going to change me. I am what I am. And I've heard this from some guys that I've worked with, when I talk to them about this issue. It's like, well, I'm who I am, and I'm not going to change, and that sort of thing. I find that sad. I find that tragic that people will not change their behavior just based on what they've always done. It's just who I am. I'm not going to change. Non-sexual harassment may be based on somebody's gender. So if you have a female employee who works kind of in a male-dominated shop, and you guys have a shop here, right? Is it over there where you build stuff? Yep. Okay. So hiding her tools, kind of discriminating against her in a male-dominated kind of way.
On the surface, reaction 3, I am who I am, take it or leave it, is an honest, straightforward way to live. But does that mean you never change your behavior? You never edit what you say or do to avoid offending others?
Oh, yes! Son of a... big gorilla!
Most of us instinctively adjust our behavior to fit our surroundings. We filter what we say and do. Most of us.
George was a much greatly admired friend of all.
Hello. Oh, hey, what's up with you? What?
Missing him dearly.
Oh, no, nothing really. It's just a family thing, no big deal.
We all know people who are missing some critical social filters. They seem to be unaware of where they are or who they are with.
Are you kidding? I don't know half these people. Okay, yeah.
Whatever pops into their head comes straight out of their mouth. Filters are a natural part of life as a social human being. At work, these same filters are the key to putting our sexuality on hold and showing respect to others. For example, let's say you think someone you work with would enjoy a suggestive cartoon or email. Before you send it, ask yourself, would I send this to my grandma? This is appropriately called the grandma filter. Or let's say you think someone you work with looks particularly attractive one day. Rather than offering a suggestive remark about your coworker's body, ask yourself, how would I compliment my grandma?
That's a pretty outfit.
Oh, thank you, sweetheart. It was on sale.
See how it works? Compliment someone's fashion, not their body. Or better yet, compliment their work rather than their appearance. When in doubt, ask yourself,
Would you say that to your grandma?
If the answer is no, don't say it,
Don't send it.
Or do it?
because you know better.
you are who you are. Maybe you can't control how you think, but with your grandma filter, you have complete control over how you interact with others at work.
The grandma filter. I like that. Yeah, that's good. All right, we talked about non-sexual harassment. Let's this idea of being severe or pervasive, okay? And this is something that if any of you ever get sued, and I hope that you don't, and Sherry hopes that you don't, and your president here hopes that you don't, the attorney's going to ask about this. Is this a severe or pervasive situation? This can happen in a one-time thing. Somebody asks for a date, makes a sexually suggestive comment that might offend you, maybe inappropriate. But if those things build up over time, okay, that may add up to a sexual harassment. I'm talking about a legal definition of sexual harassment. This idea of affecting your work environment, okay? How do you think sexual harassment does affect work environments? What does it do to people?
Makes them feel uncomfortable, and they can't be very well productive if they feel uncomfortable in their work and the surroundings of what they do.
Okay, so it makes them feel uncomfortable, and it makes them unproductive if they're not comfortable coming to work. I've had a number of clients that I've worked with in my therapy practice over the years that, going to work for them was the biggest struggle of their life. They hated work. They didn't want to get up and go on a Monday morning. They would throw up. They would call in sick. They would just be sick all the time because they hated going to work. And for a large number of them, there was some sort of harassment of some kind going on in their workplace. That's a terrible thing. You guys spend a lot of time here, right? Working. You don't want to be afraid to go to work or be uncomfortable about going to work. How else does it affect the work environment, do you think?
This is not good for the company if they're going to cost them millions of dollars in suits.
Okay. The bottom line, money, right? Yeah. Yeah, it can cost money. Again, and I want you to think about not just in terms of lawsuits, but in terms of lost time. Some of those patients that I mentioned to you that I've seen in my practice, they cost their bosses all kinds of money, right? By not showing up, by going to doctors because they were sick. Yeah. So questions to ask yourself if this is happening to you. How many times did it occur? How long is it going on? Are there other people that are being sexually harassed in your workplace? And I think, one of the saddest things I see is that some people sort of suffer in silence, right? They feel like they're alone if this is happening to them. And so if you can reach out to other people and see if this is going on. Were there people who witnessed this, right? Sometimes it is a he said, she said kind of thing. Other times it's pretty clear if it's emails or whatever, text, it's clear that it's happening. But ask yourself these questions if this is kind of going on to you. Again, the hostile work environment. If it unreasonably interferes with your work performance, if your work environment is intimidating, hostile, if you have an offensive work environment. So, for example, somebody's making sexual comments to you and your performance really suffers, or you decline professional opportunities. You don't want to be, they invite you to the Christmas party, and you don't want to be around the person that's always making sexual jokes or comments toward you. That affects your work environment. Christmas parties are fun, right? These are like things that we do to get to know each other and to feel more comfortable at work. We mentioned quid pro quo earlier. I think that's Latin. Is that Latin? Yes. Sounds reasonable to me. I'll say it's Latin. You said it's Latin, right? All right. I have confirmation. Basically, it just means this for that. You give me something, I'm going to give you something else. And in this context, it means that who is in authority over you demands sexual favors from you or demands a date or something like that in order for you to keep your job or to be promoted in your job. Okay, quid pro quo. Clearly against the law, clearly sexual harassment, clearly creates an intimidating workplace, right? So that should not happen at work, period. We talked about some of this before, the severe, persistent, or pervasive. Now, if somebody is sexually assaulted, for example, then certainly that's a serious incident and qualify for workplace harassment. But the law really looks at kind of this, the overall picture of harassment and how it's pervasive in a workplace and kind of what's been done about it. Jokes, gestures, offensive words. We talked a little bit about touching people, patting people, grabbing them, that sort of thing. Requests for dates. Flirting, unwanted flirting in the workplace. Pictures, texts. I mentioned this before when I did another training here about just workplace harassment, but when I got out of high school in 1985, I can't believe it's been that long ago, I didn't know what to do other than go work at a factory. And my cousin worked at a factory, and I went there, and it was mostly guys. There are some women that worked in the kind of accounting place. But I'll never forget this one guy. You know, I was 18 years old, just young, stupid, didn't know anything. And I walked in, and this guy at his workplace had a, let me see how I can put this, replica of a certain part of a woman's genitalia. Okay, we'll just put it that way. He had built this. Now, as I look back on that, that's really weird, isn't it? But he had that, just it, you know, no body, nothing else, just that at his workstation, by his toolbox. Now, this was 30 years ago, but I think now about the women that were exposed to that and what they must have thought, coming to work, that they were so objectified that their bodies were just portrayed in this one part of their body on this guy's workspace. So I hope that nothing that bad, happens here, but I want you to think about things that you look at on the internet, jokes that you tell, jokes that you send, pictures that you look at. Be careful about that, because that can offend other people. It can harass other people. That's kind of what I was just talking about there. Playing sexually suggestive music. I can't imagine that there's any sexually suggestive music out there today, is there? Imagine that. About a quarter mile behind us? What do you mean?
You go down the highway, they play it so loud.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you can hear it so loudly. Yeah. My sons, I've been trying to listen to some of their music and monitor a little bit of what they listen to. And, sometimes they listen to Drake, and who I think is maybe, I don't know, I guess he has some poetic stuff in his music, but he also has some pretty suggestive, pretty blatant stuff in his music, right? So, I don't know if you guys even play music here at your workplace or whatever, but just be careful about what kind of music that you play. So, what do you do here if this is happening to you? And this is really the point of this training, is that I don't want it to happen here at Clark, but if it does, I want you to get some help, and I want you to be helped by that. So what do you do? This is what Sherry sent me from your human resources policy. So if you feel comfortable directly saying something to the person who's engaging in the behavior, tell them to stop it. Tell them directly to stop it, either with your words or with your an email, something. Just tell them to stop. Now let's think about this for a second. Why do people not talk or talk to people who sexually harass them and tell them to stop? Why would they not do that?
Maybe they're afraid of, like you said, losing their job if they was working on promotions and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And some people just scared.
Scared of what?
Life.
Okay. Maybe scared of retaliation?
I guess, something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. About 3 weeks ago, do you guys know who Ashley Judd is?
Yes.
She came to our college. I met her and talked with her, and she gave a speech at our college at UK. And she talked about her interactions with Harvey Weinstein, you know, and how that all happened when she was a younger actress. And, you know, she went to his hotel, and he came out in his robe, which was kind of his thing that he did, you know. Came out in his robe, and she needed acting roles, and then, you know, exposed himself to her, asked her for sex, and I think she told him, "I'll sleep with you when I win an Oscar," or something like that. I mean, she said in that moment she was terrified. She just stopped to talk to him, and he wanted to meet her in his hotel room, which she thought was weird. She went up there, and then he did that, and she was really terrified. She shared that she has a history of being raped as a young woman and molested as a child. I mean, she shared that, and so she was terrified of him. But the point is that some people may be afraid to say something because they may be retaliated against, or it's just uncomfortable, right? But if you can, say something about it. If you don't want to do that, if you don't want to directly communicate with the person, you need to contact the person's supervisor, okay, and your immediate supervisor and talk about that, especially if the person continues on. And when I work with people in my counseling practice, anything that's happening in the workplace, I tell them to document it. Like if your boss is continually doing whatever to you, write it down. Every time that it happens, take notes about it. And that way, if it kind of comes to a sort of a formal or a legal kind of complaint, then you've got some documentation, right? Same situation here. Document what is happening. Write it down. And employees that feel you've been sexually harassed by anybody that have complaints of sexual harassments that haven't been remedied, then you can go to Sherry in the Human Resources Department, right? So kind of start with the person who's harassing you if you can. Tell them, be specific, be clear about what you want to stop. If it doesn't stop, go to your supervisor, their supervisor. If that doesn't stop, then go to Sherry Myers. Does that make sense? Okay.
Chain of command.
Chain of command, yeah, and it kind of, yes. Yeah, kind of go up the chain of command. But I know Sherry well enough, and I think you guys do too, that you can go to her at any time and she will help you with this, right? I mean, this is part of what she does here as a human resources person. Don't feel like that you have to suffer and just kind of wait till the process plays out. We've got one other video that we want to show here.
Scene 1. Angie wants Jack to stop flirting.
Well, we started out just innocently, you know. He'd compliment me on something I had on, and I'd say I liked his haircut. Just fun and friendly, and maybe a little flirty. You know, it made me feel good, and I know he liked it too. Well, it certainly made work more fun. But then I started feeling uncomfortable, like he was taking things too seriously. Well, we work together, so to me, dating is completely out of the question. And I said something to him. And I've made it perfectly clear to him since then that I don't want anything romantically with him. But this morning, he whispered in my ear how wonderful I smell. I don't know what to do. You know, I can't work with him anymore. I'm constantly distracted, and I keep wondering what he's going to say and do next.
Is this sexual harassment? Is the behavior unwanted? Is it interfering with Angie's ability to do her work?
You know, I guess I thought they were a couple. We all went out after work a few months ago, and they seemed like they were pretty close. Like, really close. I can't remember if they left together that night, but they were pretty hot and heavy when they were dancing. We all just assumed that they hooked up. But then when I asked Angie a few weeks later how things were going with her and Jack, she got really defensive. She said that they're just friends, that there's nothing romantic between them. I mean, I think Jack is a great guy. I think they make a cute couple.
Can mutual attraction and potential romance become sexual harassment? Not when it remains mutual, but when something changes. For example, if someone puts the brakes on and the other person doesn't respect that change, then you may have the start of a pattern of unwanted sexual advances, which creates the potential for hostile work environment harassment.
Yeah, she said something about needing some more space. But you know what? I think she's just scared. She told me that she's been hurt in the past by some jerks, but I'm not one of those guys. I know that there's something special between us. I could feel it the first time that we even danced together, and everybody saw it. I told her I would respect her and give her some space. But I'm not going to give up on her. She's worth the wait.
Did Angie bring this on herself? Angie brought the romance side of this on herself by flirting, but that doesn't matter now. Regardless of what happened in the past, Jack needs to respect Angie's request at work. She wants to stop. He needs to stop.
So does that one kind of make sense, right? It started as one thing, but she clearly wants it to stop, and so it needs to stop, right? And it doesn't matter what he wants, if he wants it to continue, if he said, what did he say, I'll just wait. That's not okay. She's told you to stop, you need to stop, okay? So again, there are situations that you might run into that are not completely black and white, and things change, right? Relationships change. But what I want us to go back to is, who knows who this person is? That is Aretha Franklin. And what was her favorite song, her best song? Yeah, this is really what we're talking about, right? Again, I want you guys to have a respectful workplace. And I've talked with you before about just harassment in general, right? But thinking about sexual harassment in particular, just be respectful of people, you know? Don't make them uncomfortable. Say or do things that make them feel threatened or uncomfortable, okay? And create this workplace of respect. That's what I want for you. Are there any questions, comments? No? All right. Well, then, thanks for your time. I appreciate it. Good luck. Thank you.